Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
We would love to talk about the show this week, but not if we continue to talk at this volume. Welcome to the award-nominated Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I want to live forever too. Just not in a building with that creepy aquarium, because that was weird.
Or as a jellyfish.
Apparently, jellyfish is the key. Well, actually, it's not the key to anything. It's really just a stupid theory that didn't pan out. Anyway, thanks for joining us this week as we discuss number 97 on the Blacklist, The Longevity Initiative, which aired March 26, 2015. It was written by Lucas Reeder and J.R. Orsi and directed by Donald Thoren Jr. So his daddy was also Donald Thoren, in case you didn't catch that.
I don't think we've seen Donald before, have we?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. I call him Don, though. We're close. We're tight. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at goldenspiralmedia.com/theblacklist.
We asked you last week to answer our profiling question for Tom Keene. How did you interpret the meaning behind Red's speech to Liz at the end of the episode?
And people were actually split on this. 60% said that Red did something to Liz's real parents, either killed them or made them disappear, and is making it up to her because it was the right thing to do since it was an unintended consequence.
I like the unintended part. That's an interesting...
So unintended, I said it twice. Yeah. And 40% said that Red did it because he was the absent parent and he was trying to make it up to Liz all these years.
But we still have people believing that he's the father.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like they don't toy with the notion.
Or toy with the notion that he's the mother.
Stop it. We lose listener. We lose. It's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life. Every time you say that, a listener rings the bell and gets his wings to go somewhere else. We don't want to scare them off.
Well, then I think the 60% are in agreement with us, right? We said that it was more of the making up for something that happened to Liz's parents. I believe that's where we landed last week.
That's kind of where I am, yeah. That's at this point in the show, I am more leaning toward that than I am he's the father. But I do think there might still be a relation. Uncle, cousin, distant cousin, whatever. I think there's something there because he's got a little bit of an emotional attachment, watches her from afar. So if he's not related, that's really creepy. So yeah, there's some connection.
But we'll talk more about that when we get into those photographs he was looking at the end of the episode, when we get into our characters for this week. But first, we want to let you know that our profiling question for this episode, the Longevity Initiative, we want to know, are you Team Tom or Team Ressler when it comes to Liz's feelings? That's what I'm saying. Little 1997 wine, correct?
Exactly.
It was a good year.
We're going to talk about that because that just came out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
We'll get
yeah, we will talk about all of that and more as we break down this week's episode case profile.
Now, before I break down the actual episode, I got to ask you, after last week, which you and I both rated right up there as one of the best of the series so far, let alone just the season, how did this one work for you? Did you come down a little bit? You feel like, I was on cloud 9, now I'm back down to 7.5?
Down a little bit, but not too far. The only thing that I thought was strange to me was the plastic all over the apartment, because we saw that with the stew maker. So it's like, do we have to really go to the Dexter concept? I mean, was their furniture really that awesome that they had to protect it from any bloodstains? And then, of course, the bad German accents were back. But all in all, the main storyline, I really did appreciate. I love the interweaving of some of the other characters with like Tom and Cooper. And I think the show is back on track as far as how they're tying in old storylines into new content. So, yeah, I'd say an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm right there, probably about 7. There definitely were... I tell you what, the first time I watched it, because if you never listened, we listened to the episode, or we watched the episode twice before we record, and I'm sure we say that every week, but you never know, you got new listeners, so you want to let them know. First time, I thought it was okay. I really didn't... I wasn't as involved in it, but I was also traveling, so that could have had an impact. I watched it the second time, and I realized there's so much information in this episode that I started to love it by the end of it. So there's a lot of detail in here, and we're going to talk about some of it, but I was actually shocked how much I missed the first time.
Okay, before you start talking about it, you see my comment in the show notes there?
Yeah, I already fixed it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Thank you, though. Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's talk about the episode. This week's case starts when Lloyd gets busted transporting human heads into Canada. Happens. You shouldn't have that many on your truck.
That actually is really interesting because I found out myself that with Canada, we were doing like a baseball trip ourselves. And if you actually have some kind of criminal past, like our friend in the car actually had a DUI on his record, they don't even let you into Canada if you're a criminal. So this is very interesting that this guy even got across the border.
I already knew that, actually. I worked in transportation, so yep, I knew that. Bam! I had some facts. But that is true. They are very strict. But you know what? I hate to say it. There are ways to get around things. So we don't know. We don't know what happened. Anyway, Lloyd works for this guy, Powell. He's a lead scientist of the mysterious longevity initiative, which is funded by billionaire Roger Hobbs.
Was Calvin his friend?
That was a reach, brother.
It was.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a stretch. Nice try, though. They have over 1,000 employees working on extending one's life as long as possible. But Powell is kind of separate, right? I mean, he's not really working directly with those 1,000 people. He kind of is over here doing his own thing. Were you excited in this episode? Because the episode brought back one of your alias boyfriends?
Oh, absolutely. I saw Marshall come up on the screen, and I was like, yes, Kevin, yes, please act the same exact way. And sure enough, he acted the exact same way, only instead of techie, he was a medical nerd this time.
You're obsessed.
I love it, and I hope he sticks around. His character reminded me of somebody that you fell in love with, and I like as well, but it reminded me of the quirky coroner that's on Psych. So I'm hoping that he plays that kind of character for Ressler and Liz as we go forward.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. That's good. That's a good point. In this episode, Red kind of puts the FBI on the path of Roger Hobbs for his own benefit, which we find out later. But as the episode goes on, Lloyd ends up basically bitching out and tells Powell that he's running. He's not going to be part of this anymore because of, he's just shot a cop. You can't shoot a cop and expect to get away with things. Powell keeps screaming at people, tell me your name! I thought I was having like a Few Good Men moment or something. And then as Ressler and Liz finally get on in this case, they find this crazy man in an institution who uses cards to basically indicate where Liz should go. And it leads her directly to Lloyd Monroe, who in turn leads them to Powell's lab, where we find out what's really going on here. He's working, are you ready for this? With a specific kind of brain damage, jellyfish DNA, and he's also screwing with glowing rabbits. Please explain to me what the hell's going on.
This was like the geek-tastic episode for anybody that's watched any of the previous things like Alias, Lost, and Fringe, because we had Marshall, rabbits, and a literally reanimation from the dead in a Fringe concept. So this was I should have given this a 10 because I love all of those episodes, but from a Blacklist perspective, it was just an 8. But I love glowing bunnies. That's one thing Lost didn't have.
Explain exactly how it works, because several people were asking, and they didn't quite grasp how his research was working. If you can't explain it, I can explain it, but I was giving you the opportunity.
Well, the jellyfish, as Marshall, a.k.a. the doctor guy in this episode, I don't even remember what his name was because I just know him as Marshall. He said basically that this jellyfish, when he gets scared, can shrink down into this tiny little speck. And because of that, he grows back up big again, and then he gets scared, he grows little tiny again. And so in this theory, it's the one animal, I guess, if jellyfish are animals.
Mm-hmm. There's something. I don't know what they do.
Right. They basically can live forever. So they're trying to, for lack of a better term, I don't remember what the exact technical term is, but cross-pollinate genes from this jellyfish with other genes. And his first set of experiments was on rabbits. And so literally same mother, but different daddies. One daddy was a rabbit, one daddy was a jellyfish. Don't know how that works. We're not going to get into that here. But where at the end of the day, it finds out that this bunny actually glows in the dark because it has some of the DNA properties of a jellyfish. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to do that exact same thing where they're trying to reanimate genes in people that were dormant previously and kind of give them a jump start, like a car battery.
Right. And it turns out ultimately it wasn't working that well. And the FBI...
It wasn't working at all. The guy lied.
Oh, hang on. We're not there yet, man.
I know.
But you're right. It didn't work at all. He was trying to, save his... my missus.
What, my funding?
The doctor you were trying to think of is Kevin Weisman.
Yes.
That was his name.
That's his real name.
That's his real name. Yeah, and he played Marshall in the show Alias, which, if you never listened, Troy is obsessed with the show and every connection to the show. My question, I guess, for this is, do you think this part of the Blacklist got a little bit too close to science fiction-y land?
Yeah, I mean, I said fringe right away because of that, but I think that we've seen other stuff like this with the whole, taking someone's DNA and swapping it out to make somebody else look like somebody else from season 1. So I think we've gone down this path before. I would say even the stew maker with his concoction of disintegrating people to absolute nothingness is almost science fiction-y as well. So I was okay with that.
Well, I think you're okay with it, but you love those kind of shows. Do you think it's going to be a turnoff for people?
It's a one-and-done episode. We won't see this kind of stuff
I don't know, man. We've been teetering there a couple times where I was wondering if they were going to go to the science fiction land. And I felt a little bit like, wow, this doesn't even feel... It felt like it was making a stab at something else. That's what it felt like to me. Like the showrunners, like Boca Camp, was looking at this saying, you know what? I'd like to go over here a little bit. I wonder if they go for it just to test the waters.
Well, if they bring in John Noble as a guest star and have him reprise his role as Walter Bishop, then we know we're in trouble.
Oh, that's
even though I would love to see it, but yeah, then we know we're really in the science fiction realm.
Well, Roger Hobbs is a billionaire, and Red compares his search for this immortality to the work of Joseph Mengele, who is, for those unaware, Mengele was a German scientist in World War II who killed numerous people in gas chambers and conducted shady human experiments himself. So basically, he's equating him to a Nazi criminal, right? Even though Roger Hobbs believes himself to be a pioneer, a visionary. How do you see him?
Yeah, I didn't get the Mengele reference because it's not like Hobbs is actually doing the experiments to find the cure for everlasting life. He's just funding them. And as Liz pointed out at the end of the episode, even if he didn't kill him, he still funded the killing. So therefore, he's partially responsible and could go to jail for it. So in a way, I guess he's Mengele, but really Powell and his partner Lloyd, those guys were really the more Mengele-like because he wasn't going to stop until he found a cure for his wife, fiancée, whatever it was.
I don't know, man. I really think that he's comparable because he's screwing around with people's lives and he knows what Powell's doing and he's allowing him to do it. That's the same thing. There's really no difference, in my opinion. I think the equation was quite comparable. Really do. Well, they can't connect to Powell, so Hobbs is out. Turns out the woman, Miss McGrath was the name they gave her, is Powell's wife. Aw. So he's ultimately doing all this for love because he's trying to bring his lady back. And Red takes him away. Basically snatches him right out from under the FBI. When it comes to that moment in the episode, do you think, whoa, no, it's one thing if just Liz is there, but Ressler's there too. So this is going to go up through the chain, right?
I don't know if it'll go up to the chain because they have the conversation later and Red and Liz will basically talk it out and then Red will talk Liz off the ledge. But I just want to point out that this was 2 kidnappings in one episode. 2. We had a 2 for this week.
Oh my God. We got to talk about it. Well, you know what? We'll get to the kidnapping in a second. We always break down the basics of the plot and then we'll talk into each character and we'll get to the kidnappings. Red takes this guy. He's trying to basically find out if he can bring back memories, if this process is going to work, because it sounds like he wants to reinvigorate Liz's memories of childhood, which, again, when we get to the characters, we'll go a little in depth there. But the guy ends up killing himself, right? Powell ends up shooting himself in the head.
That totally sucked because I really thought that with the research that he did, even though it wasn't going to bring forth, immortality, I think there was something to potentially regenerating the brain because that lady was starting to mumble something before she stroked out. Mm-hmm. So could the memory extraction be applied to his work? That would be something somebody else, maybe another Blacklister down the road, could actually continue to see if it's possible.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hobbs is still out there, so the work could continue through someone else. My main concern with that portion was it was ridiculous. I mean, like, nobody could stop this guy. I mean, Red suddenly has the reflexes of a napping cat. This guy just has all the time in the world, take gun, blows head off. That concerned me. That bothered me as a viewer. Because it's just like, well, that escalated quickly.
Well, Red was on the other side of the room, and he pulls the gun out of the drawer.
It's not like they were in an auditorium. He was he was right there, and he made no motion, no motion to go for that guy, for the gun.
I didn't think he was going to do it. Red was like as shocked as he was, because even when Hobbs was like, they're calling it a suicide, Red almost shows like some emotion. He's like, yeah, it's done. I was waiting for him to say something like, well, you could call it that because that's exactly what happened, but he didn't want to tip off Hobbs that the dude offed himself. He wanted to make sure Hobbs knew that Red did it, so that way Red could have him in his pocket.
It really bothered me. I just thought it was a little bit ridiculous.
Well, it's the scientist aspect of it, right? You're talking about Mengele, same kind of concept, I guess, where he was just so into his work that when his work didn't actually amount to anything, he considered himself a failure. And most great minds would probably do suicide at that point because everything they've worked for leads to nothing. So therefore, suicide's the only out. I
get that he wants to end it. I get that. He's found out he can't continue his research. He's not successful. He's a failure. I get him wanting to do it. The Red letting him kill himself is the part where I'm like, no. He seemed to have genuine emotion toward this guy. Like he didn't feel that he felt compassion for him to some degree. And I think he felt like he had something. Maybe there's still something to what he's doing. And it's just the fact that how quick it didn't happen quick enough for me to go, oh, he couldn't have stopped that. It really felt like Red let it happen. Okay, well, let's break it down from Red's perspective then. Number one, I want your research to extract these memories. Okay, your research can't do that. Well, then Hobbs, I need Hobbs for later on. And Hobbs said, take you out. So therefore, I got to take you out. But I kind of like you, and I want to see if your research can actually do something. So when you take yourself out, you know what? Your research wasn't going to work anyway, and I got a twofer. So I think that's why Red didn't try to stop him. He can actually off him without having to off him because he did actually care about him. True. I guess it just bothered me. It bothered me. But you're right. It is what it is. Well, Red ends up, because of what you said, Red ends up garnering favor with Roger Hobbs, which makes it seem very likely that he's going to return. Red told us at the end with Lizzie that he's going to return when we need him to. We need him. There's going to be a point when you're going to need someone like him. So let's talk about what his future could possibly be. Do you think it's going to play out during the season? I mean, that's going to be a season 2 thing, or are we talking long term? Yeah, there's just so many storylines open right now for how this is going to play out for the last 4. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say future season. Something bigger is going to have to come about that he's going to need Roger, some other connection or some other thing to maybe recreate or go back into Liz's brain. I don't think they can go there in the next 4 episodes. I think it's going to come back. I don't think they're going to introduce it this close to where the finale is going to hit and not come back to it. Plus, as we've talked about, Blacklist tends to pay things off rather quickly. So I think you're going to see it before the end of the season. I don't know what he's going to do, to what degree he's going to do it, but he's going to be back, I think. Maybe it's the cliffhanger, like Red's in trouble and Hobbs saves his life or something. Because remember, that was the key message in here, right? He said, well, I already would be dead if it wasn't for you. So really, it sounded like Red did something to save his life. So in order to save a life, you have to return saving a life. So maybe Hobbs takes a bullet for Red in the finale or something. Sounds good to me. I like it. Do you think that, because usually when we see these episodes, almost always, whoever they're going after is taken care of by the end of the episode, right? And the last 2 episodes, the Blacklister in particular has not been removed or incarcerated. Because you got the longevity initiative, which is still functioning, and you have Tom Keene, who's still kind of on the run, which we'll get to in a minute. So do you think maybe what the Blacklist is, what we originally thought it was supposed to be, is definitely turning as we continue? No, I think it's still the same thing that we always thought it was, which is a list of things that Red needs to either put on or take off the chessboard in order to further his end game. And in this case, he needed Tom Keene in order to further his end game, so that makes him a Blacklister. And he needed Hobbs. Now, calling the longevity initiative the Blacklister versus just Roger Hobbs, that's where I have a little bit of a qualm with this episode a little bit, because I think it would just been more beneficial to say number 97 Roger Hobbs, personally. Because longevity initiative didn't really play into anything unless immortality is what we're talking about when it comes to
the fulcrum and what this clandestine group is all about at the end of the day.
It's very possible. I mean, you figure a group of powerful people, what do they want outside of power? Immortality. So that definitely could be a factor. Can't wait to see how this plays out. The final 4 episodes are going to be really exciting. I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff going forward. Let's break down the characters. You ready? We got a lot of characters, some stuff to talk about. Let's knock out the ones that didn't do anything, really. Aram and Samar, they're basically organized birthday parties, and Aram manages to ramble off a little bit of exposition here and there. So when are they going to get back into the action? It's been a few episodes since they really did anything.
They can't get into the action if they're sneaking cupcakes. They got to watch their figure and get some push-ups, and maybe Tom can give them some lessons.
I mean, it's nice that with all this other stuff going on, they're still trying to plan a birthday party. That's nice. But it just, I feel like if you focus on one character, like 2 or 3 others end up hitting the wayside. But that's what happens when you get a large cast.
Well, here's my problem with Samar, and it's nothing against, the actress or anything. It's the same problem I had with Myrna in season 1. She just doesn't fit with the team. The team is Liz and Ressler. That's the team. Mulder and Scully for Aaron. I'll even throw one his way for the X-Files. She can't really fit in. And really, her story was about avenging her brother's death, which already happened. So really, there's nothing for her to be on the show unless they go back to the fact that she was planted onto the task force by Reddington to spy on stuff and report back. And she hasn't even really reported back to him. So her character right now is like really in limbo. So either you have to move back to her story of being planted on the task force by Red, or keep her in the background because she really has no purpose.
Well, I would disagree with you because I think Mazan Marno, I believe is how you say her name. I hope I said that right. Who plays Samar? I like her more than I like Ressler as a character.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely.
So it's more. I guess I kind of always want her more involved in the action. I want Ressler more involved too, but Samar I just like more. I don't know why. I think the actress is more engaging. She just has a little bit more fire to her, where Ressler is a little bit too Dudley Do-Right sometimes. And it's nice to have. Because I think she could keep Liz in check more than Ressler could keep Liz in check. You know what I mean? And there's a good back and forth, and they've shown that in a couple episodes.
I think where she would be a better fit, though, and I don't want this to happen because it would take away any chance of Dembe getting more screen time, but she could be the Lou Lee replacement for Red's network.
There you go.
And have her be, on the case more with Red, kind of back and forth with Red, talking with him, criminal to criminal, mastermind to mastermind in the limo as Dembe drives him around.
I like that. Speaking of, all he did this episode was wear some cool winter hats and drive around.
I'm just glad they got the hat into 2 episodes this season.
Why? You a big fan?
Yeah, he was wearing it in Ruslan Denizov, and then he's wearing it in this one.
Oh, that's too funny. I want him more. I always do. I say that every week, and I'll say it every other week until they make him basically second only to Red. That's really what I want.
Because that hat really makes him look like a Jedi.
I don't know about a Jedi, but cool. He made it look cool. We live in the Midwest. We could never make that hat look cool.
Never.
The Major came back, and he warned Tom about the girl. I warned you about having feelings for the girl. Ha, ha, ha. And he took out his gun like he's going to shoot him, right, when he snatches Tom. Do you think he was going to? Because he hesitated. Do you think he would have killed him?
He probably would have killed him, but the thing that went through his head was probably the same thing that went through all the rest of our heads was, crap, I brought the car that has the child safety windows. So even if I splatter his brains, it's still going to get on the windows because the window didn't go all the way down.
It's an option. I didn't even think of that.
I laughed so hard. I was like, wait, the window didn't go all the way down. Damn child safety windows.
I sensed hesitation because he could have capped him at any point. I really think he wanted to, but he wasn't going to. And I don't know. And when they end up getting taken and he's being tortured, he still seemed to have a respect for Tom. I really don't think he wants to hurt him. I do think he feels for him like a son.
But the whole sequence of the dog ate the chickens, and even though he loved the dog, you got to know when to put the dog down. He wouldn't tell that story if he wasn't willing to go through with it.
I didn't say he didn't want to go through it or know that he had to go through with it. I'm saying I think he can't go through with it. I think he thinks he can. He's done this for a long time. But you're talking about the one guy he actually cares about.
So then we're going to probably see like another person in the Major's network go after Jacob, a.k.a. Tom Keene. Mm-hmm. And that person will also be a blacklister on Red's list.
Possibly. I mean, now you're just creating more theories. We don't need more. We've already got plenty. Let's keep it down.
Okay, so here's what we want to ask going forward. Do we continue to call him Tom Keene, or do we start calling him Jacob Phelps because we already have another Tom in Tom Connolly, just to make it less confusing?
No, you got to call him Tom Keene. You know why? Because he'll always be Tom Keene to our main character. And we go by what she says.
Okay.
So there you go. She makes the rules. We follow Liz. So there you go. Problem solved. And the Major wants Jacob Phelps found, a.k.a. Tom Keene. I don't know. I think it's for his own safety. I really don't think it's to hurt him.
But he totally sold him out. He totally sold him out on the couch.
I really don't think he'll hurt him. I just don't. I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure everybody will write in and say, you're wrong, you're stupid, he's going to kill him. I just think he felt something for the kid. He feels like a little bit of a son vibe for him. I just don't think he'll do it. I hope I'm wrong. But wait. Yeah, I'm okay if he shoots Tom at this point. So yeah, I hope I'm wrong. Okay, the Germans, I don't know where they're going to come into play, but those accents have got to go. They've got to go. At some point, just say you're not really German so you can talk English, because it's frustrating to me where I'm listening to it going, what? Is he actually doing it from a Looney Tunes cartoon at this point? Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, totally.
What would you like to do? Zigha. It's like, what are you doing? Don't they have like a German dialect coach at some point that they could call in and say, hey, these guys aren't really getting it?
Boot them now or wait till they get home.
Wait, that's Swedish. It's like, what you want to do? Oh, that's funny. Well, I don't know where their story's going, but they kind of brought up the fact that Liz Keene is an option should Tom not cooperate. And then they also bring up the fact that, well, they got to be leery of the FBI. Do you think they will ultimately go after Liz, or are they just scared of her as a target? They're just going to use her as some kind of leverage.
Just leverage.
Just leverage? You don't think they're man enough?
I mean, they could come after Liz. The question is, if they come after Liz, what's going to happen to the Germans? Because then Red's going to come after the Germans.
Well, they don't necessarily know that Red's connected to her, though.
Right, but they will when Red comes in firing his gun all commando style.
Are you tired of this plotline, the German plotline? Or are you just waiting to see how it plays out?
Well, I'm curious because of this whole Sarah Hastings thing. Mm-hmm. Because the Major put Tom in play to go kill or get rid of Sarah Hastings. So the question is who the heck is Sarah Hastings? And I thought the guy that Tom kneecapped a couple episodes ago, I thought his name was Mark Hastings. So that's where I'm curious, is to see if that means anything in the overall story, or if it was just, we need to go find this girl because that's Tom's mission until Tom got pulled out.
Obviously, that story is going to tie into something, right? It's going to be a bigger arc.
It's the Chekhov's gun thing. You told me about Sarah Hastings, so now Sarah has to come into the picture somehow.
Look, they were already away from the Germans, so they didn't need to bring the Germans in. So they brought him back. They keep reintroducing why he was undercover. So yeah, it's gonna play out. It's gonna be a big. That's the only way that they can keep Tom really in the story, to make him either on the run or in danger and need Liz's help. The story's going to have to mesh up with the Blacklist itself, with the post office. There's going to have to be some connections, because otherwise there's no reason for him to be in the story.
So the question then is, if Tom and Liz are going to hook up in the next episode or so.
Wait, what?
Well, I'm assuming that they're going to, because he said, I got nowhere else to go, right? So I'm assuming Liz is going to take him in, because Liz is foolish like that, right? We talk about naivety of the FBI agent and all that stuff that we've been kind of harping on Liz for making bad decisions. So I'm assuming he's going to take him in. So the question I have is Red going to come after Tom and kill Tom because he didn't stay away from the girl? Or is Red going to come after Tom to save Tom from the Major because he knows that Liz actually still cares for Tom and wants to make Liz happy based on the whole, you can protect her, you can watch her, you can keep her safe and all that jazz?
Yeah, I guess they're going to hook up. I just don't want them to. Like, for me, that's just such a stupid teenage girl thing to do. You know what I mean? You already know he's dirt. He's sure he might have. I tried to make it up a couple times because I realized I made a mistake. For several years, I was lying, manipulating, and basically plotting to kill you. But yeah, we're good now. Yeah, come on. He's a bad man. He's a very bad man. I don't care how damaged he is. I don't care how many ultrasound pictures he waves around. He's just a bad man.
Well, then you have to feel the exact same way about Red.
No, I don't, because James Spader is cooler. He's infinitely cooler.
Whatever.
Infinitely.
You just don't want to agree with me that Red is manipulating the situation the whole time.
I don't care if he is. He's more entertaining than me, so I like him more. So therefore, I can forgive more. That's just the way it goes.
All right.
Now, the Germans, they snatch Tom, which comes back into the kidnapping thing. And then we had another kidnapping later when Red snatches Powell. Okay. It keeps coming up. A lot of people aren't even bothered by it. But I got to tell you, if you go back since the season picked back up after the break in January, February, sorry, right after Super Bowl, there's been a kidnapping in, I think, just about every episode.
Yep.
That's either funny or sad, and I'm not sure which at this point. It's gotten to the point where it's a drinking game, honestly.
You have to go back to the pilot because technically in the pilot, there was a kidnapping. So maybe it's their MO.
For every episode?
Possibly. I didn't go back and count if there was a kidnapping in every episode, but I know in the pilot there was one.
I think we should. I think somebody should take it upon themselves to revisit all the Blacklist and count how many kidnappings we have total. I'm sure somebody has, right?
Possibly, yeah.
There's somebody out there. Somebody's got a tally or a T-shirt or a meme of some sort where it has a kidnapping total. But I got to tell you, it is getting a little silly because we've talked about it how many times because it keeps coming up. And every week I'm like, they're not going to have one. Oh, wow, they just snatched somebody. Okay.
It's to the point where we need a counter in the corner during the episode. And then
that would be so cool.
The counter goes up.
That would be so cool. It just flipped over like 86. Dink. Let's move on. Tommy Connolly. Did you pick a side yet? Because I'm really starting to love his little smug smile.
Man, I just love the way he delivers his stuff. He's so smooth. I can't tell if he was behind the doctor taking him out of the trial and then potentially getting him back into the trial, or if he was truly like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was just being a friend and letting you know you should probably leave him alone. I mean,
absolutely agree.
He's almost better than Red in a lot of ways.
Let's not get carried away. I love the way that he's performing that character because he is doing it so gray area that it's perfect. I can't tell. You know in your heart he's ultimately playing this, right? I mean, he's playing with Cooper's head. He's making sure that if you don't do what I say, bud, you're not going to get your treatment. I don't know what to tell you. But the way he's playing it, I keep second guessing myself. And I know I shouldn't. I've seen TV shows. I know he's bad, but I just keep doing it. Do you? Right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Immediately I was like, he's totally pulling the wool over his eyes and saying, yep, if you don't take care of Hobbs, you're out. And then he's out. And you have to wonder what Cooper's thinking in his head. And he acts that exact way when he's talking to Ressler and Liz. Hey, we don't got anything on him. Let the dude walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And speaking of drinking games, apparently I'm saying right like every other sentence. So be sure to take a drink every time I do. I love this character. I at first didn't know where they were going to go with him. I'm like, well, it's just another bureaucrat. Man, he is turning into a character that I think could really be a big part of the series itself.
I almost like him better than I liked David Strathairn's character as the director. And I'd love to see the two of them have a conversation and see how that plays out.
I definitely think it's possible. I think you're going to see more of Connolly, and I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of where he lies in the scheme of things. But I love the way that they're playing his performance with him and Cooper. And speaking of Cooper, he got cocky over this Roger Hobbs situation. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking, where he's just like, he just started taking the fight to him when he really wasn't even implying a whole lot. He's just like, hey, I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt because Connolly was just playing that angle so smart. And Cooper really seemed like a jackass in that scene.
Yeah, when he's talking to Ressler and Liz.
No, I mean when he's talking to Connolly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the hardball at the beginning.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, Connolly walks in. He's like, hey, Roger Hobbs. He's like, what? You're trying to make me throw this case? And I mean, that's how I read it. He just got all just vitriol and, his pride is hurt and he's trying to assert himself and make sure, hey, I'm the boss here. And Connolly's like, okay, yeah, all right. Let me know how that treatment goes. See you, brother. Gotta go. And I think I came back around and bit him in the ass. Yeah,
I think he was flexing his muscles based on what happened in the previous time he helped Tommy out. And now he's saying, well, I don't want to do this again. And too bad. You're going to keep doing it as long as you want to keep living.
Do you think he was stupid there? I mean, I think he got a little too confident because he could walk around a little bit. But I think he got a little too cocky.
Yeah, what do you think of that whole scenario about him being able to walk with no cane finally?
Well, I think it's the treatment. I mean, the treatment seems to be working. He's going to live. He enjoys living, which is obviously why he had a turn of heart before the episode ended. I like this aspect of it. I want to get that gone because I know the actor can walk around. So why are we still dealing with the cane?
So, but the question I had, was the cane because of the tumor, or was the cane because of what he suffered when he got strangled in the car?
Didn't he get shot like last season? I mean, he's been limping all season. You don't remember that?
Well, yeah, that's what the question is. Is this treatment really fixing his limp?
Oh, is the treatment fixing his limp? Okay.
Right. Or is it just that he finally got better because he got better over time? Or is the treatment doing both?
I think it's really confidence. I really do. I think, you get a mental block and you've got a lot of psychological issues and you're a little gun shy, and then suddenly you realize you almost died, but now you're going to live. And I just think confidence. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to use the cane as much anymore. I'm going to try and walk it off. That's what I think.
That's actually a really great exposition on his character then too, because he's been kind of that wishy-washy guy. And now he does this kind of stand-up bravado to Tommy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe it's a direct relation to how his character's been portrayed over the course of the season.
I absolutely think it is. It's totally a stubborn pride thing, and he wants to reassert himself as a good moral man, which he can't do. And even though last week it seemed like he was admitting that, my morality is compromised a little bit, my morals are compromised a little bit, I don't think he realized just how compromised they really are, because now he wants to live. And his doctor's kind of a douche, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
But he ultimately ended up bending. I mean, he bent again. Now, Jacob, a.k.a. Tom Keene, calls Liz for help. Still seems a little smitten. I thought that call was a little ridiculous because Liz keeps taking his call. Stop taking his call. You keep saying that he's duplicitous, he's leech, he's awful, he's inhumane, he's a shady killer, he's all of these things, and you keep taking the guy's call. Why?
Because she doesn't have caller ID because he's always using a burner phone.
That would be my tip. Hey, guess what? Here's another number from where I don't read. Hey, what's up? Hey, this is Tom Keene. What's up? Then you hang up. That's all you got to do. That's my impression of Tom Keene. Sylvester Stallone-ish.
Hey, yo, Lizzie.
Hey, Liz, how you doing? Yeah, I don't know. Every time it feels too teenage girl in love for me. I just don't get why she keeps taking the call. You'd think at this point she would be hardened and just hate him.
I don't know. I mean, I go back to the first episode of season 2 when they were getting the whole divorce thing taken care of. And she's like, no, I want to keep the name. Why keep the name if you don't have feelings for Tom?
I don't know. Just to keep that semblance of your life, your former life.
I'd want to get rid of that life completely. The guy was a complete, jerk. He faked the whole thing. He doesn't really want a kid with me. We're not going to adopt.
Oh, he does, because he keeps the ultrasound in his pocket. We found that out.
Well, yeah, that's what Liz is thinking, though. So that's why does she keep the name unless they want to get something on again later? And then again, she has that dream about Tom standing at her bedside. Remember, the glasses were on the nightstand, so somewhere in the dream, they were already doing a little bomb chicka wow wow. Mm-hmm. And then Red comes in. So, she has feelings for him, and that's why she keeps taking the call. There is something there. The question is, what does that look like going forward, knowing everything is out on the table? Is he still playing a character, or is he really going to say, Liz, I love you as Jacob?
That brings me to where they were torturing him and they pull out the ultrasound pic. I don't know. I mean, the guy burned everything about his former life, but he still has this pic. That seems a bit of a stretch. And
the funny thing is that that's not even like their kid, because they were going to adopt. Mm-hmm. So it's somebody else's ultrasound pic. Wasn't it like his sister's baby or something? And then he writes Elizabeth's names on the back.
I don't think it was his sister, was it?
I thought that's what he said when they were having their epic fight in the apartment.
I don't remember that aspect of it. That's something we should know, but I don't know that one.
I'm sure someone else knows. Or his fake sister, right? Because it wasn't even his sister.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it was a fake sister. I don't know. I don't remember that part, but if that's the case, that's the case. I just thought it was a little odd since he had to get rid of everything, but he just kept that ultrasound. I don't know. It is what it is. Tom ends up burning his old life and hanging out creepily in Liz's apartment. Where do you think this is going to go? Do you think they're going to get down?
Oh, absolutely. It's too hot. We already talked about that.
Break some furniture.
Way too hot, yeah.
I just liked in this episode, it was basically setting up for two possible romances. Is it going to be she's going to secretly go back to Tom and be his everything? Or is she going to have a little Ressler time, drink some cheap wine she made with her dad a long time ago?
I like the more apropos with that dream sequence that she had about choose a side. Red comes in, choose a side, Liz, me or Tom, me or Tom. I think that's going to be the more interesting storyline as we go forward, is how are they going to figure out that relationship between the two of them? Go with the guy that you supposedly love or go with the guy that supposedly protects you?
My last question about Tom Keene, okay? Do you think his character has worn out his time on the show? Nothing against the actor, nothing against Ryan. I think he does a great job. Do you think that character is, okay, now you're taking us away from what we come here to watch every week?
Maybe a little, but it's such an important part because he was set there by Red. So there's still this connection between Red, Tom, and Liz that I think it's still important to the story, but you got to get to a point quickly because I think eventually it's going to start wearing out really thin pretty quick.
It's kind of where I am. I don't get me wrong, love the actor. I think Ryan does a great job, like I said. I think Tom has been very entertaining, but I really think they need to wrap his story up because unless you can figure something out, maybe the Germans will play into that. Some way to expand on his involvement in the entire series mythology. It just feels like a thread that needs to be cast aside. I don't know. It's done. And either wrap it up or move on from it. But it really doesn't feel like something that we need to spend several episodes in a row on.
Or like I suggested, maybe Tom joins the task force in season 3 to go after Red because something happens and Red disappears.
I don't want that. I really don't want that. It's just not something that would interest me, honestly, as a viewer. It's I'd rather you got rid of Tom and beefed up Samar's role or something, or expanded Donnelly's involvement and showed some of the backstory to wherever his loyalties lie. I would rather see that than I would more Tom stuff. I don't have a need. I always get worried for shows like this where they have an expanding mythology and they have fan favorites that they're afraid to cut loose. Because some shows cut loose like too much. Like Walking Dead just keeps cutting fan favorites loose left and right. And you've got this show which doesn't seem to really want to cut them loose. And at some point I think it's okay. It's okay to let that character go. His purpose has been served, even though I know people love him and they love the romance and it's sweet and whatnot. That can only go so far. He can never really come back to society. He can never really be a part of her life. So let's just move on from it. Like by the end of the season, I would prefer his character was wrapped up in one way or another. Personal preference.
Okay.
All right. Ressler. Now, he gets the most screen time, I think, in forever. And he's once again back on his high horse, trying to be the good guy. God bless him. And he's also back to being more of a close friend to Keene. I mean, we started off the season wondering if they were having a little bit of relationship, and then it kind of faded off with the other story elements. And now it looks like it came back hot and heavy. Is he a little bit more emotionally connected to her than just a friend?
I would say he definitely cares for her, but I think we're still like Mulder Scully season 1, season 2, where there was no romantic entanglements. I think that there could be
wine, though. That wine. Come on.
Well, it depends on how bad it really tasted. I was shocked that she uncorked the one that she bottled with Sam versus the other one.
I think that was still a symbol that this is a special occasion for her. This is special. I think there's something there. I do. And just so you know, those answering the question, I am Team Ressler all the way.
I'm definitely not Team Tom.
Because of the whole don't trust him, don't like him thing, or just because you think Ressler's sexier? Prefer not to answer? I understand. It's okay.
There's some listener theories coming up, so that's why I can't be quite Team Ressler yet.
Okay. Last two characters. Boom, the two big ones. We got Liz. I think Liz proves that John Paul, I think was his name, in the insane asylum, wasn't just crazy. He was scared, right? Because, I mean, he basically pointed out exactly what she needed to know to find who she needed to find. I kind of like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the exchange they had. And I was surprised that Liz didn't try to piece it together at least first when the king kind of slid forward. Mm-hmm. Like she didn't say like something like Latin kings or the kings or king something.
Latin kings?
Well, I don't know. I'm just, at least speculate a little bit before
Wrong show.
Well, speculate on something before you go back to the list, and then it's like, oh, Gold Crown. Shocker.
Yeah, I like how you jump from the Blacklist to the Wire. I think it's great. Go ahead. Good point. I liked her comment. I don't take, when she's talking to Red and she says, I don't take anything you say at face value. I appreciate that because we all think that. So every once in a while, I love when they remind us that, okay, Liz isn't a dum-dum.
But she has some gum.
Not funny. I'm sorry. Shame on you. Liz is pretty much a standard FBI agent this week. I really didn't see a whole lot of heavy plots or lifting from her specific character. A lot of stuff revolving around her. A lot of Tom stuff, like we already talked about ad nauseum. But she does take Tom's call. She has a touching moment with Ressler where she drinks the wine and expresses her frustration with her life. So where do you think, I know we just said what team we're on, but where do you think her heart lies?
I think her heart lies in her. She's still trying to figure out herself. And she has to make that decision. And that's why this decision is looming. Do I follow my heart and go back to my husband? Do I follow my head and I stick with Ressler? Or do I follow my crazy and I figure out what the hell's up with Red?
Okay. I think she is making some dumb decisions. I think she's going to she keeps taking Tom's calls. She's going to end up having a tryst with Tom. She's going to regret it. Ressler's going to find out. He's going to put a little stick in the middle of their blossoming relationship, and then you're going to get a little drama out of that. That's what I think it's going to.
See, that would be cool, right? So they have a tryst, and Donald finds out about it, and then Donald and Red team up. Because I like when Donald and Red team up. I think that's a fun pairing.
So do I. I think they play off each other very well. They should do that more often.
He's been chasing him long enough, so you would assume that they're kind of like bosom buddies.
Speaking of Red, the dropping the wine off with Liz, the wine that she made with Sam as a child, do you think that's awfully convenient? It just came out of nowhere.
It's her birthday.
I realize that, but she's had birthdays before. I assume she had one last year. So it just seemed like he's still trying to get her back on his side. Like, hey, I'm there for you. There for you, hon. That sort of thing.
Well, then she was naive. It's like, well, how did you know about the wine unless you were part of my life back then? That question never came up.
Do you just want her to like duct tape him to a chair and torture him until he just answers the question, don't you?
What's your name? Tell me your name.
It's kind of what I was thinking about. I'm like, man, Liz needs to get some jellyfish and make something happen. Either inject that into her own head or tie Red down and make him talk. I don't know. Something. Somebody needs to do something. Let's get some answers. Chop, chop. Well, Red puts Hobbs in the crosshairs. I don't know. He wants Powell for himself because of the potential for memory restoration. That kind of confused me because I thought he didn't want her to remember. But he needs her to remember for the fulcrum, but she has the fulcrum. So what does he need, do you think, from her memory?
Maybe a code to decipher the fulcrum? Maybe some more of the conversation that happened at the front door?
What do you mean, the conversation at the front door?
Between the lady and the man. Like maybe there's more to that conversation he needs to... Again, we don't know if they have the full fulcrum or pieces of the fulcrum, if it's like separated. So maybe there's more to the dream sequence he needs information on in order for the next part of the plan or whatever. Some people are saying that if they unlock the memory, it'll unlock the code or the sequence or whatever to get the music box to play a different song or something.
Okay. Well, I guess I would like to know what he needs to know, at least. I mean, if he's pursuing this, when I thought he was done pursuing this, I would like to know what he's pursuing. Why is this so important? It just would help make the story make more sense and understand his pursuit. But I know that's going to be one of those things, like I've said before, it's going to play out over the course of the season. Very interesting, though, because I really thought that thread was done. Or at least it was going to be on the back burner for a while. It just made me nervous that they're dipping into sci-fi to make it happen again. Well, finally, the pictures at the end. Red is finally looking into what appear to be Liz's birthday photos. But is that fondly he's looking at them, or is that guilt?
Both. Well, I think two of those are Liz. Clearly, it looks like Liz. The last picture with the girl and the boy, that one seemed a little interesting to me because I was trying to figure out who the boy might be. Could the boy have been Tom at an early age? Could the boy have been Ressler? Could it have been somebody else that Red had planted in her life at that point? Because we talked about it was the house explosion episode that it seemed like Red had two kids. And they obviously, one was killed, and we don't know what happened to the other one because we're assuming the other one was Liz. We collective people. And so the question is that Liz in that picture, or is that his other daughter or his daughter in that picture? So there's a lot to be said of that last picture. why they showed it to us. And I think people will be talking about that for a while.
So what did you get out of it?
I thought the same thing that most people thought, that potentially the boy could be either a brother, or it could be Ressler, or it could be Tom.
It could be Ressler, it could be Tom. What? I haven't heard this theory. Is that going to come up in our feedback?
It is going to come up a little bit in the feedback, yeah. But basically,
Okay.
Is it possible because he had red hair or reddish hair that it could have been Ressler?
And they're brother and sister.
Right.
Oh, snap. I never thought of that. That would make it really creepy to be Team Ressler. It's like Luke and Leia all over again.
Hence why I wasn't ready to go there yet.
Oof. Man, I want to get to that theory now. All right. Well, that's pretty much the episode and the characters. Is there anything else we missed? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff. So did we miss anything?
I guess the question would be do you want to see Hobbs again? Do you want to see Kevin Weisman back on the show again?
I don't care about Weisman. I know you. Look, I was a big Alias fan too, and I know you're obsessed. You're borderline obsessed.
Oh,
but
no,
I'm not.
I'm obsessed.
You are obsessed. I'm just not one of those people where I have to see my old favorites pop back up and other things, and it's cool, but it also becomes a little bit gimmicky to me. You know what I mean? Whenever I see that, I think stunt casting. I think gimmick. It happens once or twice. That's cool. But when it happens like every episode, it takes me out of the episode. So I'm not a fan of it. And that's why. It's not anything against Kevin Weisman. I think he's great. I loved him as Marshall on Alias. That was a great character. And I've loved a lot of the actors that have been on the Blacklist. But whenever you do something like that, it just kind of takes me out of it a bit.
Yeah, I didn't want to see him as the same type of character. And it was the same type of character.
Mm-hmm.
Just medical instead of tech. Make
Very
up
much.
something else like Vargas. Like totally different so that you wouldn't expect him to be the same person.
Exactly. Now, Vargas, I thought definitely Pee Wee Herman was going to take me out of it. Like, I'm going to be, that's Pee Wee Herman in our show. And it did it first just because, you're getting used to it. But then it really got cool. And I'm like, wow, he's got a whole different character I've never seen Paul Reubens play, where Kevin Weisman played exactly what I remember him from. And it even to the little quirks and how he presents himself. And to me, that's more of a gimmick, and it takes me out of a show, and I don't enjoy that. I like seeing him, but I just don't want it to be a thing, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we wanted to take a few minutes just to remind you all that we do interact socially in a few ways. Of course, we have our Facebook group, and it's hopping, so you want to make sure you join the Facebook group. That's the Blacklist Exposed. You can search for it right at the top of Facebook. Just type that in, and you'll find us. Or you can follow us on Twitter at the Blacklist GSM. And we live tweet during the Thursday night airing of the East Coast feed, and had a lot of good conversation this week. Of course, the big question is up there: Team Red, Team Ressler, Team Tom. You can pick whichever one you want to do. Just let us know. But yeah, interact socially. It's been a lot of fun chatting with all of you guys, the fans.
You keep wanting to jam this Team Red. It's not Team Red. It's Team Ressler.
It's already on Twitter. I'm just saying.
Stop it.
The question is Team Tom or Team Ressler, but there are people that have said Team Red.
Well, those people are creepy. Stop it.
It doesn't assume that they're having a romantic relationship. They just want to see the two of them work together and not go with either Tom or Ressler.
No, because I'm implying romantic relationship. So I don't want to think Team Red. That's just gross. Let's not do that. And I will not be live tweeting this week, so you're going to have to take the heavy lifting there, man, because Furious 7 comes out.
Oh, man.
The
pressure is on.
Yep. You can also chat live during the show with the other Blacklisters via the Beamly app. Just head over to Beamly.com to download the app, then search for the Blacklist TV show page and join us there as well. Don't go anywhere, because Special Agent Intel is up next.
Nothing of note to this week for Red's rhetoric. Let's hope we get a good story from Red next week. It was not a shock that Red Angel was the clear winner last week, although the Major did make some good points about knowing when to put a good dog down. We can't feature the man who actually wants to kill Jacob. Before we get into the episode comments this week, Aaron, you put up a question on the Facebook group that asked, what do we think of all the kidnapping since we had another one, and I corrected you and said 2 this week.
That's true.
We kind of had some split responses on the group to your question.
We did. There's a lot of responses, so feel free to go to the group and read them all, but just a couple. Carol says, I never really paid attention until you pointed it out. Well, you are welcome, or I'm sorry, whichever way you take it. I'm more irritated by the way they make the FBI seem so incompetent at times. So many times the kidnappings would be prevented with backup or having a partner. The pilot was a kidnapping, so perhaps it's their MO. Gee, I feel like I've heard that
Yeah.
earlier in the show. Troy will be sending you residuals, Carol. I promise. Emily said, it mostly bothered me when it was several episodes in a row of Liz and or Ressler being kidnapped over and over again.
And over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. And just recycle, repeat, recycle, repeat. I think it annoyed me most because it made the FBI/Cooper look dumb, in addition to the agents being kidnapped. If those agents can't go anywhere without being kidnapped, why wouldn't Cooper at least send Samar in place of one of them? Other than that particular run of episodes, it hasn't really bothered me. Okay, and Hestia says, boring. Come up with something new. And Rory, by now, it's nothing more than amusement. Yeah, he's doing the drinking game right along with me, I feel like. Yeah. Now for this week's comments. Julianne, she asked a really great question. I just wonder why no one else in the FBI has tried to figure out Red's relationship to Liz. I mean, come on, they're the FBI, not even a DNA test.
And that's a really great point because they tested him when they put in that tracker in his shoulder and all that other stuff. There's been numerous times where they could have gotten a DNA sample from him. I think they even did get a DNA sample from him back in the pilot. The question is, why didn't they test for a connection, especially early on in the show?
And I can answer this for you, all right? Because I'm a little bit psychic. Because Bokenkamp said no. That's why.
That's exactly why.
Show creator John Bokenkamp said, no, it's too early. But yes, you are absolutely right. Somebody could have easily gotten a DNA sample by now. Somehow. I mean, they've had him in captivity several times.
Well, plus they can get DNA off of a coffee can, apparently, for, many, many years. So anybody could have been running that DNA test behind the scenes, even like Aram or somebody.
And in response to this episode, also, Rory said, wow, just wow. Got a little of everything tonight. I'm definitely on board with sleazy, smiling Tom Connolly playing with Cooper's head. See what I did there? And Tom and Red and Ressler moving in on Lizzie and Tom. Is it just me, or does Red really need to come clean to Lizzie already? Well, yes. I mean, but he's not gonna, is he?
That's a good question. I wonder if he's going to have to because of Tom being back in her life.
We're never going to get... Look, I'm telling you what. This show runs 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 40 years, whatever it is. The final definitive answer, you aren't going to get until that final episode. I am willing to bet money on it. Not much money, because I'm poor, but some money.
Can you give me some of the answer, though, without giving it all away?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've gotten some of it. We get a little piece here and there, and we'll get it probably every 6 to 8 episodes. We'll get a nugget. And the finale will give a bigger nugget, but we're not going to get the whole story to where it all makes sense until that final episode. So if you're one of those people that need to know right now, I am sorry, you will probably be disappointed. But we're going to be having a great time because we love the show. Linda rebutted, saying, I really don't like the Red versus Tom choice that Lizzie is going to face.
I don't know if it's a choice that she's going to face. Why can't they all work together? Can't we all just get along?
Maybe he'll just go away. Because that's kind of what I'm hoping. Maybe Tom just packs up and says, Liz, I need some money. I want to go to China. And she says, okay. And then he goes to China, and we don't see him on the show anymore.
He doesn't have any money. She set up that scholarship. He's as poor as you.
Oh, that's true. That's a good call. It's a good call. And I wonder how many people are pissed at listening to my voice right now because I said I wanted Tom to leave the show. Because, man, he has a rabid fan base.
Well, Carol actually might be in your court, Aaron, as she said it sounds like Connolly might be working for Red, which would mean Red controls what they investigate and if the criminals should be convicted. If he isn't working for Red, he must be working for the group that is then after Red. I guess the question of the week should be, who's Connolly really working for?
It should be, but we had a little too much romantic action going on. So we had to go Team Red. You got me thinking it. Damn it. We had to go Team Tom or Team Ressler. But you're right. That's a great question. Who is he working for? I've said it before, and I will continue to say it. It's Red. I think Red is pulling those strings. I don't think it's the organization.
Well, then let me throw this at you. From a different look, Tom said, is it possible Red got to the doctor and had him make that call, even though Cooper's spot was never actually in danger? It protected Red's buddy and makes Tom Connolly look bad, a win-win.
Yes. He needed Hobbs. So for me, it plays perfectly into that point of view, which is, kind of what Carol is saying here. It makes absolute sense. Yes, I totally believe that Red is pulling those strings.
But I think what he's saying is that Tom doesn't actually work for Red, and Red wants to make Tom look bad.
Wait, what?
So he's saying that he wants to basically make Tom Connolly look bad, And if he wants to make Tom Connolly look bad, then he can't possibly be working for Red. Because Red,
I don't know how does it make it doesn't really make Tom Connolly look bad.
It does if you look at it from Cooper's perspective.
Well, it makes him look dirty. It doesn't make him look bad. I mean, he already thinks that about him, so he knows. Basically, no matter who called that in, he's going to look that way. So I really don't think who did it is going to affect that.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully that made sense. I don't know. Very tired. It's been a long week.
I'm just telling you what Tom said.
All right. I appreciate it, Tom. Carol also said the youngest birthday picture of Liz does not look like the little girl in Lizzie's memory. Were there two girls and only Liz survived and Red's daughter was the other girl? Maybe Red's daughter died or is missing, but she was close to Liz, a best friend, or a cousin. Red feels connected to his daughter through Liz, and Liz became like a surrogate daughter. The missing memory could include information about what happened to his daughter.
That might be what he wants to get into her brain.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just want to know why he wants that memory. And I'm sure knowing that information would probably be a big answer to two questions. So they probably won't tell us till the last episode, like I said earlier.
And I like this from Carol because it goes back to that dream sequence in the closet. You know, who's Masha? You are. So the you are, was it because there were two girls in the closet?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting touch there, Carol. I like it.
I like it a lot. And Doc H will close us out tonight. Like this episode. I like most episodes, but I think I like this one for different reasons than usual. I like a good one-and-done tale. Fair enough. I like a good procedural or formula episode. That's kind of what a one-and-done is, isn't it? I like the serialized aspect occasionally over a few weeks. This had a nice balance of all three. It was refreshing to see the FBI agents using their thinking caps for once, doing a little qualitative interviewing with suspects versus the standard gunplay or kidnapping of good guys we normally get week to week. It was refreshing to see the majority of violence was bad guy versus bad guy, and their little power plays forming. We got a big move on several of the major backstories, opening up a half dozen new paths for the myth arc to follow. The only thing missing in this episode was Red's rhetoric that included the truism, I'd rather have a free bottle in front of me than a prefrontal lobotomy. Dun-dun-dun.
Love it. Because, Red can't check himself into rehab. He just couldn't put himself through it.
No, he can't. That's a lot of great thoughts. And I agree with that, actually. That's why I like the episode, especially the second time. I'm like, wow, it really comes together when you rewatch it. And there's a lot of information in there. And I think if you were just kind of liked it or you were kind of into it, but you didn't love it like you did the week before, I think you should give it another watch because I really think people are going to see a lot of things they missed the first time.
Kind of like that recap episode where I said rewatch it again because you'll get a lot of stuff that you kind of missed the first time through.
No, not like that one because the recaps were still way too much. So you're still wrong about it.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you, but you're still wrong. I mean, you could say you're right, but you're still kind of wrong.
Yeah, this was kind of like a setup episode, and I like that it's a setup episode, but it adds more to the story at the same time. So this is really playing out what's going to happen for these last 4 or 5.
And I also like the testing the waters aspect that we talked about at the beginning. I really like, even though it makes me a little nervous, I don't want them to go too far into sci-fi. I've got enough shows like that. I don't need one more. And I really like the real world aspect of the Blacklist to a degree. I do like that they're looking at it from a realistic perspective. I just don't want them to get to where it was like Alias, where it ended up being science fiction. You know what I mean? So, just walk the fine line and we're all good.
Science fact, not fiction.
Yeah, okay. The guy lived forever at the end of that show. Spoiler alert, just letting you know. That's not normal. Which also kind of tied into
the longevity initiative.
You're welcome. All right, well, that's going to conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter this season at the Blacklist GSM. We live tweet during the East Coast feed, and we will use the show's hashtag, The Blacklist. We also have a Facebook group. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed and join us for the fun.
Intel from you is what we want, and we have a few ways you can do that. You can submit the intel right into the agency via the goldenspiralmedia.com/The Blacklist website. Head on over there and use the left-hand side of the page to submit your feedback in a number of ways.
You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes and Stitcher from the website as well, and find all the intel and analysis about this episode for the Longevity Initiative. Again, visit goldenspiralmedia.com/The Blacklist. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. Are you Team Tom or Team Ressler? Team Red's not an option. I don't care what Troy says. When it comes to Lizzie's feelings. So which one is it?
Team Red is an option if you so choose. It's your choice. Let us know.
No, it's not an option. I refuse to acknowledge that. Nora's read her mom. Stop it.
Until next time, I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast. It's available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com, or I'm on Twitter at H_outsider. Personal Twitter is Kaz_Peters. Once again, I love underscores. Be sure to subscribe, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2015. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.